It's a quiet moment in the morning. Maybe you're just finishing your first cup of coffee. You look in the mirror and you notice something you haven't seen before. Your teeth seem just a little longer, or perhaps there's a small gap where there didn't used to be one. Most of us assume this is just the price of admission for getting older. We've been told for decades that our gums will naturally pull back as the birthdays pile up. But what if I told you that a habit you've likely practiced for 40 years, something that feels as natural as breathing, might be the real culprit? And the most surprising part? This habit is something most people actually think is healthy, but research suggests it might be quietly thinning the very foundation of your smile. I want to talk to you today about something that isn't often discussed in the dentist's chair. We hear a lot about sugar, and we hear a lot about flossing. But there is a silent shift happening in how we live our daily lives that is impacting our oral health more than we realize. As we cross that 50 or 60-year milestone, our bodies begin to change the way they protect themselves. Experts at the Mayo Clinic often point out that our mouth is the gateway to our overall health. It's not just about a nice smile, it's about how our system handles inflammation and bacteria. But here's where things get interesting. Many of the things we do to stay healthy as seniors might actually be creating a perfect storm for our gums. Studies have shown that gum recession isn't always an inevitable part of aging, but rather a response to specific environmental changes in our mouths. I've spent the last few weeks diving into research from Harvard Medical School and various dental journals, and what I found changed the way I look at my own morning routine. I realized that one specific habit, one that almost all of us do, is actually linked to the breakdown of gum tissue. Let's start with the basics of how our mouth stays healthy. Most people don't realize that saliva is actually a biological miracle. It's not just water. Research suggests that saliva is packed with minerals like calcium and phosphate, which act like a liquid repair kit for your teeth and gums. But as we get older, our repair kit often starts to run dry. According to research published by the Mayo Clinic, the production of saliva naturally tends to decrease as we age. Now here is where that silent habit comes in. Think about how you sleep. Many of us, as we get older, begin to breathe through our mouths at night. It might be due to a bit of congestion, or perhaps just the way our jaw relaxes. This habit of mouth breathing is often linked to a total collapse of the mouth's defense system. When you breathe through your mouth for 8 hours, you're essentially evaporating your primary defense. A study in the Journal of Oral Rehabilitation suggested that mouth breathing significantly lowers the pH level in the mouth, making it more acidic. I remember a gentleman I spoke with recently named Bill. Bill was 68, a retired teacher, and he was meticulous about his health, but he couldn't understand why his gums were suddenly becoming sensitive. It turned out he had developed a habit of sleeping on his back, which caused him to breathe through his mouth. He didn't think twice about waking up with a dry mouth. He just drank some water and went about his day. But that 8-hour drought was slowly allowing bacteria to thrive in an acidic environment. Experts often link this chronic dryness to the gradual recession of the gum line. It's a quiet nightly habit that most people never think to mention to their doctor. But here's what's truly surprising about how we handle our oral health during the day. We've all been told to stay hydrated. 8 glasses a day is the rule we've heard for a lifetime. And for many of us, that means keeping a glass of water, perhaps with a squeeze of lemon or a cup of tea by our side all day long. But there is a specific habit called grazing or sipping that research suggests is incredibly hard on our gums. Experts at Harvard Health have noted that every time we take a sip of something, even something we think is healthy, it changes the environment of our mouth. There's a concept in dental research called the Stephan curve. It's a graph that shows how the pH level in your mouth drops every time you consume something. It takes your saliva about 20 to 30 minutes to neutralize that acid and bring your mouth back to a safe, alkaline state. Now imagine you're taking a small sip of tea or lemon water every 15 minutes. Your mouth never gets back to that safe zone. You are effectively keeping your gums in a constant state of acid bath. Most people don't realize this is happening. They think they're doing the right thing by staying hydrated. I once knew a woman named Sarah who loved her sparkling water. She would sip on one bottle over the course of 4 hours while she read. She thought she was being healthy because she wasn't drinking soda, but because she was constantly sipping, her mouth remained slightly acidic all afternoon. Studies have shown that this constant low-level acidity may help support the breakdown of the delicate fibers that attach your gums to your teeth. And this is where things get interesting, because it's not just about what we eat or drink, but the hidden daily habit of when we do it. And you might find that this next point hits even closer to home, especially if you take a daily supplement or medication. This is a topic that requires a lot of sensitivity, but it is perhaps the most important for those of us over 50. As we navigate our senior years, many of us are taking medications to help support our heart health, blood pressure, or even just to manage seasonal allergies. Research from Harvard Medical School indicates that there are over 400 common medications that list dry mouth as a side effect. Now we often think of dry mouth as just a minor annoyance, something that makes it a little harder to swallow a cracker. But in reality, it's much more than that. When a medication reduces your saliva flow as a daily habit, it's like taking the security guard away from your gums. Without that constant wash of mineral-rich saliva, the bacteria that naturally live in our mouths begin to change. Studies have shown that in a dry mouth, the bacterial balance shifts toward the types that are often linked to gum irritation. Most people don't make the connection. They start a new blood pressure medication, and 6 months later, their dentist tells them their gums look inflamed. They don't realize that the medication was the catalyst. It's a silent daily habit of taking a pill that is actually changing the climate of their mouth. It's not that the medicine is bad, it's doing its job for your heart, but it's creating a secondary challenge for your smile that most of us aren't prepared for. I often think of my own aunt who was taking a daily antihistamine for years. She never realized that her habit of taking that little white pill every morning was the reason her gums felt so tender. Once she understood the connection, she was able to work with her dentist to find ways to support her mouth's moisture. Most people don't realize this, but even the way we focus throughout the day can be quietly destroying our gums. I want you to try something right now. As you're watching this, where is your tongue? And are your upper and lower teeth touching? For many of us, the daily habit of micro-clenching has become a baseline for our lives. Whether we're driving, reading an email, or even watching the news, we tend to hold a lot of tension in our jaw. Research published in the Journal of Periodontology suggests a significant link between physical stress on the jaw and the health of the gum tissue. When we clench, we aren't just putting pressure on our teeth, we are actually compressing the tiny blood vessels in the gums. Think of it like a garden hose. If you step on the hose, the water stops flowing. When we clench our jaw as a daily habit, we are essentially stepping on the hose for our gums. This may limit the blood flow and the delivery of oxygen and nutrients to the tissue. Over time, research suggests this lack of nourishment can cause the gum tissue to become weaker and more prone to receding. It's not a sudden injury, it's a slow, microscopic process of starving the tissue. I've noticed myself doing this when I'm deeply concentrated. My teeth aren't necessarily grinding, but they are touching. And that constant light pressure is something our gums weren't designed to handle for hours on end. It's a habit of modern life, the habit of constant, low-level readiness that is quietly taking a toll on our oral health. But what if the solution isn't a magic product, but a simple shift in how you handle your morning? Now, I want to be very clear. We aren't talking about cures or instant fixes here. We're talking about understanding the biology of our bodies as we age. The goal is to support what we have and to be mindful of these quiet habits. If you suspect that mouth breathing is your habit, experts often suggest looking into your sleep position. Sometimes something as simple as a different pillow to keep your head elevated can help support nasal breathing. It's about creating an environment where your mouth can stay closed and hydrated. When it comes to the sipping habit, you don't have to give up your tea or your lemon water. Research suggests that a simple clear water rinse after you finish a drink can help your mouth return to a neutral pH much faster. Instead of sipping for 3 hours, maybe enjoy your drink over 30 minutes and then give your mouth a break. And for those of us on medication, awareness is the biggest tool we have. If you notice your mouth feels dry, talk to your doctor or dentist. There are safe, gentle ways to help support moisture, like specific oral rinses or even just being more intentional about drinking plain, neutral water throughout the day. These aren't guarantees, but they are practical, realistic steps that align with how our bodies actually work. It's about working with your body's natural defenses rather than unknowingly working against them. There's something deeply personal about our smiles. They are how we greet the world, how we express joy, and how we share a meal with the people we love. As we get older, we start to realize that our health isn't just about not being sick. It's about the freedom to enjoy life without discomfort. I think about my parents and my grandparents and how they often just accepted that teeth problems were a part of getting older. But the more I look at the research, the more I realize that we have more influence over our health than we were led to believe. It's not about being perfect. It's not about fixing everything overnight. It's just about noticing those quiet moments, the way we breathe at night, the way we sip our morning coffee, the way we hold tension in our jaw when we're worried. When we start to pay attention to these daily habits, we aren't just saving our gums. We're taking a stand for our overall well-being. We're saying that our comfort and our health are worth that extra bit of mindfulness. I've started making these changes myself. I'm more aware of that dry mouth feeling, and I've started being more careful with my sipping habits. It feels good to be proactive. It feels good to know that I'm supporting the foundation of my smile. I'd start paying a little more attention to that first thing in the morning feeling. I wouldn't ignore it if your mouth feels like a desert or if you notice your gums look a bit different in the light of the bathroom mirror. I wouldn't wait for things to become painful before I started being more mindful of these habits. If I were in your shoes, I'd just start by noticing. Notice when you're clenching. Notice how long you're sipping that morning tea. Because I found that when we listen to the whispers of our bodies, we often don't have to deal with the screams later on. I'd love to know if you've noticed any of these habits in your own life. Do you wake up with a dry mouth? Have you noticed a difference since starting a new medication? I read every comment, and I'm always so moved by the wisdom this community shares. I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourself, and take care of that smile. It's the only one you've got, and it's a beautiful one.